between what's to be done on the NIC, what's to be done on the GPU, what's to be done on the CPU. And companies like NVIDIA with their RiverMax chipset are turning a ConnectX 5 or a ConnectX 600 gig NIC into basically a video display card.
Let's talk about it right now on A Cup of Joe. Hey everyone, I'm here to talk about Dell Technologies' role in media entertainment. And who else to talk to about that other than Tom Burns, the CTO of Media Entertainment at Dell Technologies. Truth be told, we had a nice interview at SIGGRAPH, but unfortunately the noise was so loud on the floor that the clips were unusable. So I asked Tom to join me again here in a quieter space from our homes and just go over and talk about how relevant Dell is in media entertainment, something I found kind of surprising when I came from the studio side over to the vendor side. But before we get into that, Tom, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and about your career before you came to Dell.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Burns. I'm the field CTO for Media and Entertainment in Dell's Unstructured Data Solutions Group. So that's Isilon for file, now called PowerScale, and ECS for object. But because I spent the previous 25 years in my career doing VFX, doing post-production and broadcast, I get involved in all kinds of end-to-end all Dell M&E solutions.
What's now PowerScale, previously Isilon. That's been part of my career before in the studio side and now working here at CDW. Maybe you could tell me how Dell helps all the different areas of M&E and the different ways that they help the customer basically get to their solution faster or better.
Well, speaking of CDW and PowerScale, it's the 10-year anniversary of Studio Cloud this year, just like it's the 25-year anniversary of Dell Precision Workstations. So you've got all these interesting things happening at the edge, whether it be for on-prem rendering or on-prem workstations, that everybody's trying to replicate in the cloud. And so you've got, people working on the greatest edge of all, these huge volumetric capture stages, and everybody trying to figure out how can we deal with global collaboration when really, because of talent availability or maybe COVID issues, we need to think about a secure remote graphics edge rather than a bricks and mortar facility these days. So whether it's spread out geographically or concentrated in that, intense on-set production edge, there's so much activity happening at both ends of the data management spectrum.
Yeah, you mentioned the volumetric and then the new virtual production. That's having a huge, really added a new layer and ripple, I think, to what the studios have to deal with, and now consequently what Dell has to deal with. You had mentioned your background, I think, also was in post and things like that. What are some of the other areas where you're finding Dell has a role in media entertainment outside of what we traditionally see in VFX animation and studio life?
Because I work for the storage group, the UDS group within Dell Technologies, storage is kind of the building blocks of every workflow, whether it's be for content creation, locally on a workstation with a USB drive, or whether it be content distribution for like an up and out cloud distribution model. And all of these new broadcast services coming online with an ad supported tier mean that there's a really complex workflow on the broadcast side. Certainly though, at SIGGRAPH, the most fun thing to look at is the proliferation of these virtual production stages, and to realize that that's the stage that we were at with traditional visual effects 25 years ago, cobbling together systems, best of breed systems, to drive these insane consumers of bandwidth, either on the display side or like for a volumetric capture stage, when you have to have these speed of light storage tiers with good data management, whether you're playing back or whether you're ingesting from like 108 cameras type of thing.
Yeah, and the adoption of these virtual production facilities or the addition to studios' existing infrastructure often means too that they need some next level additional resources to make it happen. What I think some people are maybe don't always see is that these virtual production facilities aren't replacing visual effects or animation in any sense of the word.
No.
They're simply adding another layer, another tool in the toolkit for the studios, both pre-production and post, to do and use. And so it's really just added to the palette, right, that everyone's painting from, and it hasn't subtracted from it. But with that comes additional bandwidth needs, additional resource needs. I know we on our side have helped a lot of the studios in Vancouver help get their visual or their virtual production facilities up and running. And usually what's behind it all, what's behind the curtain, when you what's where's the storage for all that data sitting? It's usually sitting on a power scale system, at least with our customer base here. So it makes sense that all roads sort of lead to storage. Cool. Well, in the future, I know that Dell's got some roadmap stuff, and there's 90% of it you probably can't talk about here on just a YouTube channel. But can you tell me a little bit about what Dell's looking at, and where? And you mentioned the Edge a little bit, and what are they looking at going forward here as we go into 2023, 2024?
So we mentioned the storage, but there's also at SIGGRAPH, I'd have to say that AMD CPUs in a Dell R16 server design with PCIe 4 for all that bus bandwidth. On the compute side, the CPUs are not quite outstripping GPUs, but they are internally to a server. We're doing a good job of offloading the right tasks between what's to be done on the NIC, what's to be done on the GPU, what's to be done on the CPU. And companies like NVIDIA with their RiverMax chipset are turning a ConnectX 5 or a ConnectX 600 gig NIC into basically a video display card, because they can use this broadcast standard called ST2110. So there's a fantastic amount of innovation, not just in the storage side, where all flash has pretty much gotten cheap enough now to be used at the edge everywhere, whether because of QLC technology, and now they have new 5-level Penta PLC technology. And so, all flash at the edge, all compute is virtualized now, whether it's CPU or GPU, and the NIC is kind of the third leg of the triangle that makes the performant edge, that much faster. As you say, whether it's a real-time game engine driven type of effect, but not every VFX shot will lend itself to virtual production. For the ones that do, it's fabulous, but there's still, it's an additive rather than a subtractive to the VFX industry.
I remember when GPUs were once thought of as one day these are going to be just like CPUs, and he was like, yeah, that's just for making my screen render. And here we are, right, where they've almost taken over, or at least carved out their own new world. And now we're talking about NICs taking on the next level. It's interesting. I think with virtualization, we're seeing at the hardware level too, where all of a sudden hardware is going to become very loose as to how it's defined and what role it has in a machine or in a pipeline.
The ideal situation for some kind of production supervisor on a VFX, whether it's a feature or an episodic, is somebody comes to them with a scene and he goes, okay, I need 10,000 cores for this scene. I've got some of them on-prem, I've got some of them in a data center someplace, and I've always got the public cloud if I want to pay retail. So, wonderful choices. Everybody's working on that middle layer, the control plane for orchestrating an entire hybrid workflow. That's where we saw a lot of innovation and a lot of software systems. I don't think anybody's got the perfect solution yet, but it's cool to see so much innovation between the object core and the performant edge.
Yeah, and going back, you also mentioned the power of what AMD has done in just sort of lifting up the total core count and the total processing power of each individual box.
Compute density is awesome. And that's really what it's like. That's the whole game for on-prem rendering. And I suppose for the public hyperscalers as well.
Exactly. And for us, even as a private cloud, we've taken our, cloud from 100,000, cores to 300,000 cores, and it continues to grow at a faster and faster rate. And a big part of it is because of the AMD core density, right? We've been almost exclusive in there at this point. So, yeah, it is great times coming ahead. And obviously all those render nodes we use are Dell boxes, because all roads lead back here. So this is why I wanted to bring you in. I really appreciate your time for revisiting and redoing this second interview. And it's always a pleasure to hang out with you in person. So I look forward, whether it's going to be in SIGGRAPH or if you come up here to Vancouver. Can't wait to go have a drink with you again. It was fun hanging out at SIGGRAPH.
Great to see you, Joe.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tom.
Take care.